making people see that the things are there when they're not there. That they are mind parasites. They lock into humans and manipulate their perceptions, what we call possession. That if you could describe the Archons in one word, they said basically, it would be deception. They are deceivers. And they are also inverters. They invert the natural order. They twist it. They have taken the natural order, which they could not create, and they've inverted it, which will make so much sense in this world as we go along today. And interestingly, basically what they were saying is Satan and the God of the Old Testament are basically words for the same thing. And they call Satan the deceiver and the demon of demons, like they call the demiurge, the Lord Archon, the Archon of Archons. And what I have, the way I kind of symbolize it, maybe even more than symbolize it, I think it's very close to the truth. Everything has awareness, self-awareness, in different forms. And I would say that what is known as the Archons is a self-aware distortion. I'll tell you more about what I mean in a second. It's a state that inverts and distorts anything it comes into contact with. So, when you come to inversion, the word evil is live written backwards, which is so kind of symbolic, because evil is an inversion, a distortion of life. Evil is an inversion of perception. It is extreme ignorance. And this is why the archontic force and everything in our reality that is connected to the archontic force and fundamentally dictated to by the archontic force is involved in anything around death, anything around destruction, anything around suffering. Because the natural order is love, compassion, empathy, and all those things. And the death cult, well, life. The death cult is an inversion of that. Satanism is the worship of the archontic force. So, we have this kind of world that we'd like to have. It's a world of life. It's a world of vibrance. It's a world of compassion and decency and getting on. The archontic world is death and destruction because they feed off that energy for reasons I'll come to. This is the archontic world. No imagination. You look at the way even the built environment is changing around the world. So it's becoming this uniform, uninspired, no creativity. That's archontic architecture. It's archontic mind. And all the destruction that goes on in terms of pollution and environmental destruction, that's all archontic in nature. The archontic writings by the Gnostics said they were inorganic entities that created the inorganic parts of the solar system, but they did not create the Earth and the Sun, and they did not create the Moon in its original state. And this would sum up what they say about the Archons and what all these different cultures say about their version of the Archons, as the Gnostics call them. Archontic psychopaths. Now these are the traits of psychopaths. They have no empathy. They cannot put themselves in the feelings of how others feel caused by their actions. Thus, there are no limits to their actions, for there are no emotional consequences for their actions. And coming into my life recently has been, from all angles, has been psychopaths and psychopathic information. Very, very important. To understand the psychopathic mind is to understand the world and the people that run it. They have no remorse. Tony Blair, I rest my case. They have no shame. They're parasites. They feed off other people's creativity. Usually through money. I mean, money basically creates nothing. People who create nothing need money to do what they do creating. So we'll give you, Dragon's frickin' dead. You bring me your creativity, I'll give you some money, I now own most of your creativity. Parasites, pathological liars. Virtually every politician I've ever known, I rest my case. And they'll do whatever it takes to achieve their end, no matter what the consequences for others. The Gnostic writings use the word hal, which is an Egyptian Coptic word meaning simulation. They were talking about the fact that the Archons could create virtual reality to manipulate the perceptions of humanity. They described the Archons as the counterfeit spirits. Very, very good description. You create something with your creativity and your insight and your inspiration. Then someone copies it and sells it. That's being a parasite, and it is also being a counterfeit. And that's what the Archontic force does. It feeds off the creative imagination of humanity for its own ends. And so, again, the same occurring themes in these different cultures. The Archons were described in these terms by the Gnostics. They make something appear to happen that does not happen. They can induce a virtual reality experience. And the Islamic and pre-Islamic world say of the jinn, they can manipulate humans by creating illusions. We're back to this. Accidents happen, that's what everyone says. But in a quantum universe, there are no such things as accidents, only possibilities and probabilities folding into existence by perception. And so if you're going to control humanity the way I described, you control their perceptions by manipulating illusions. So the Archontic distortion has hijacked the perception of the mass of humanity, and that's how we become what we have compared to what we truly are. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. These are manipulating our unconscious world, and thus our conscious world, to disconnect the droplet from the ocean. When we are connected to the ocean, we are infinite genius. When we're disconnected from the ocean, that which disconnects us can turn us into idiots. Five-sense mind disconnected from infinite awareness. The idea is to disconnect true consciousness. This is why the common theme in these writings is the Archons are A, envious of humans, and B, terrified that we will wake up. Because waking up means connecting with this. The Archontic force doesn't have a this because it's a distortion. And so, what they've created is a human society based on, in the kingdom of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. The Archontic force is the one-eyed man, and they've made humans blind. When we become the two-eyed, third-eyed humans, it's over. And what they have done by doing this is to lock us into a small band of frequencies from which they manipulate our reality in many and various ways, as I'll describe. As I said earlier, the frequency increases, the amount of energy, information, knowledge, awareness, insight increases. So the idea of the Archons is to suppress that and make sure that we never get to those levels that can actually see the game and understand it. And this is why this esoteric knowledge and this deeper understanding of reality, when do you ever see television programs about it? When do you ever see it in the media? Never, virtually never, because that is not desired for the human people family to know.